product is really more of an image than hardware. You think of making motorcycles, that consumes a vast majority of our time, but in reality, we believe that what our customer is buying is he wants to look a certain way, he wants to feel a certain way, and he pays a lot of money for that privilege, and he incidentally gets a piece of hardware with it called a motorcycle that helps him.
That piece of hardware, the legendary Harley-Davidson motorcycle, has seen many changes through the years. So is the company that makes the bikes. Harley-Davidson is the last surviving American manufacturer of motorcycles, but the road has not always been a smooth one. In the early 70s, Harley pretty much owned the market in heavyweight cycles. Corporate parent AMF wanted to take advantage of that market dominance by building more bikes faster. Managing the supply chain was not a priority.
During the 1970s, our efforts were all dedicated toward increasing production.
But, as any safe rider will tell you, faster is not necessarily better.
Our product was really at the worst in the mid-70s, 74. It was probably the bottom of that because we overexpanded and just plain let quality get out of control.
When we recognized that there was a quality problem, many of the first actions that we took were really detrimental. We set up a checkpoint right before the assembly line where we began inspecting all parts that were being delivered to the assembly line. And at that point, it's really too late. You can't run an assembly line if you don't know what's going to get there today.
That problem could have led to a focus on the people who supply this line. But there were other, more important items on the corporate agenda. It became clear that Harley-Davidson needed a new start.
We recommended that AMF sell the company because our interests were diverging from theirs. As a practical matter, we really didn't think that they could do it, and they weren't successful in selling it outside because we were trying to sell a capital-intensive company that competed only against the Japanese, and that's not the easiest thing in the world to sell.
AMF basically told Beals, okay, go sell it.
He spent about a year looking for a buyer, and during that time put together a very positive profile of Harley-Davidson's future, and I think he sold it to himself. He convinced himself that it was a worthwhile investment, so then he put together a group of local management and got one of the earlier of the leveraged buyouts together.
That was 1981, which proved to be a tough time to be taking chances.
We knew it was going to be tougher without cash and without a rich parent. Indeed, it was much tougher than we thought.
And that's why you ended up going public again.
Yes, because what we hadn't counted upon was a very serious recession in the early 80s, the worst that we'd had since the Depression. And we hadn't counted on our market share decreasing rapidly from the mid-30s to 23%.
Harley-Davidson set about picking up the pieces and putting together its operations and its motorcycles in a better way. Firm, realistic production schedules were established. In Milwaukee, where Harley makes engines and transmissions, manufacturing people took a close look at inventory turns and found lots of room for improvement.
In 1981, we had $24 million worth of inventory in this plant, and we turned it at a rate of about 4.5 times per year.
They set a goal of 12 turns per year, achieved it, and stayed there for a while.
We did not expect enough of ourselves. We didn't believe that we could still operate the business without that amount of safety stock.
But they discovered that indeed they could. Inventory turns were driven to 16, 20, 24, 28 per year.
Our inventory has dropped from 24 million to about 4 million, and we're running at a higher level of production.
Setup times were reduced drastically, which made smaller lot sizes feasible and put Harley-Davidson on the road to just-in-time manufacturing and supply chain management. Focus shifted from pushing production in anticipation of demand to a pull system responding to orders. Employees were enlisted for group problem-solving programs, like quality circles.
We will respond to any circles proposals within 2 weeks of the time they make them. That doesn't necessarily mean we'll say yes.
Involving employees reinforces their commitment to quality.
To me, every transmission or every engine that's built here is going on my motorcycle. Okay, and what I wouldn't want, I certainly wouldn't want a customer to want.
With major changes underway in-house, Harley-Davidson decided it was ready to take its ideas on the road to suppliers. There were potholes in that road, too.
Just about every company we talked to, I think, told us when we first started, it said, well, the problem that we have is we're different. You make motorcycles, and for you, just-in-time can work, but we service all different types of customers. So, you know, we have to deal with a lot of different types of companies. So just-in-time isn't the same for us. And so we had to show them that the principles are universal. They can work in any company.
There followed a period of gentle persuasion.
Quality is an absolute necessity. It's not negotiable. Delivery is an absolute necessity. It's not negotiable. But there are a lot of things about the product that can be negotiated.
Some suppliers seemed to respond half-heartedly.
Just-in-time to them was becoming a just-in-time warehouse. And there's a lot of those companies out there today. What they do is they deliver product to you just in time out of their warehouse. Now, if you have problems, quality problems, you have a whole just-in-time warehouse full of quality problems.
So Harley-Davidson got tough. The Milwaukee plant set out to trim its supplier base from 320 down to 120 and establish performance requirements.
If a supplier wants to be a just-in-time supplier to Harley-Davidson, then we expect him to produce in that manner, not produce in large batches, warehouse the material, and then ship it to us.
Of course, for a supplier to install a just-in-time program, he needs good scheduling information from his customer. Without advanced scheduling, a supplier has to maintain inventory. Harley promised scheduling, and piston supplier KSG Industries says Harley delivered. It's a 3-hour drive from the KSG plant in Marinette, Wisconsin, to Harley-Davidson's plant in Milwaukee. Nonetheless, KSG has gone from producing 2 months' inventory to making pistons to meet daily requirements.
Getting the information as we do now, we can see the blips, we can see the overtime periods that are planned, we can see the Saturdays, and we can adapt to that, and we can see where it relates to on our other customers' parts that also share that equipment.
Harley-Davidson has not succeeded in persuading KSG to make its foundry part of a manufacturing cell instead of running it next door. But the rest of the line is in a cell for Harley and an automotive customer.
From the start of the boring operation, cam turning, to packaging, it's done within 35 feet about, with maybe 2 to 3 operators as opposed to 15 people located all throughout the plant. Our throughput time is just unbelievable, and that's where we've really gained our momentum.
Harley-Davidson calls its just-in-time program MAN, Materials as Needed. In addition to just-in-time programs of their own, suppliers are required to have statistical operator controls and employee involvement programs.
In the statistical process control area, we really refer to it as statistical operator control, because we like the concept of having the person actually doing the manufacturing also do the measuring and the recording of data. We believe that that's an important educational tool for him, and that he is the one who will be able to use that information to make his process better.
In employee involvement, Harley looks for a formal program, not just an open door to management. All of these programs are set out in writing, and progress is monitored.
What we ask is not for statements, we ask for goals. They have to be specific, measurable goals. And then we sit down with these companies twice a year and go over these goals. We look for continuous improvement. And if they didn't meet all the goals, that's okay as long as they have a program where they're going to continue to strive to meet them.
UltraTool, a metal stamping company near Milwaukee, is one of the suppliers Harley-Davidson points to as a success under the MAN program. UltraTool has dedicated an entire manufacturing cell to parts for Harley-Davidson. And even though it's kept running only 50 to 75% of the time, the supplier says it's worth it.
With the volume of parts that are run and the number of operations in those parts, whether it be secondary stamping or forming, welding, tumbling, it requires part movement on the floor. And the cell was designed to reduce that movement to a specific area. It also incorporated the tooling in that area, so we don't have to go to a separate die rack, which may be 100 feet away, pull the die off, put it on the cart, take it over there, set it up, put it back. It's within 10 feet. It's very quick.
Harley helped UltraTool improve its processes, and it has paid off.
We have not increased the price to Harley in 3 or 4 years.
Though Harley preaches the benefits of manufacturing cells, it doesn't quite have that for its own purposes. Part of the legacy of its former owner, AMF, is that engines and transmissions from the Milwaukee plant have to be trucked to York, Pennsylvania, where the bikes are assembled and tested. Just-in-time programs for manufacturing products like this favor nearby suppliers, which are often small businesses. But there are other considerations.
Large suppliers tend to have more capital backing and tend to have more research and development available. So for some sorts of components, it's very important to have those things. For other kinds of commodities, we find the relationship is easier to manage if we are a significant portion of a company's business.
Harley-Davidson faces an unusual business challenge. Its traditional market is fiercely loyal, but it is aging. So the company is actively developing side businesses, like the licensing of its name and logo.
Why does it take 3 weeks to buy something?
It has even made a side business of teaching others what it has learned about dealing with suppliers.
We initially put together a half-day seminar to show to our suppliers so that we could educate larger numbers of them than we could on one-to-one contact. We have now expanded that into a full day and have included a number of other segments in it to include some major changes in the cost accounting area, changes in our supplier relationships.
Suppliers of suppliers are here, as well as those who might want to benchmark Harley.
We're doing similar things, and we just wanted to come and learn what's happening here.
If you are truly committed to becoming a just-in-time manufacturer, you need to reduce your setup times.
The seminar is led by Harley-Davidson staff, like veteran buyer Peggy Neary Frittura. For her, retelling the Harley-Davidson story is like spreading a gospel of manufacturing salvation.
The first thing that we really had to do was educate us. It was difficult for us to go out and sell this to other people if we did not believe in it. That took a long time. Once we did, it was like, the TV evangelists, I believe, and we went out and actually were able to do this and convince people this is the way of the future, this is the way it should be.
Today, Harley-Davidson is riding that wave with dramatically increased productivity and a drastic drop in warranty costs. The company has reestablished its reputation for quality. The hog is back.
I think a lot of companies struggle with what is it we should measure, and even more fundamental, what's good? I mean, I've got a number here. It says that I've got a 6% delinquency rate. Is that good? Is it bad?
The answer, according to Gary Kirkham, is you just have to find out what's good and bad for you.
We went through many iterations of trying something and then revising it and trying it again. I don't think that can be avoided. I don't think there's any piece of advice that I could give that would prevent that from being necessary.
First, you have to make sure you pick the right supplier. You have to make sure you don't overestimate the capabilities of that supplier.
In other words, don't assume that suppliers will be at your doorstep clamoring, "Choose me, choose me." The best suppliers will want to supply for you only what they know they can supply well. Customer companies don't always seem to understand that.
Sometimes they may insist that that's what's needed, and we may then suggest, well, maybe then we are not the supplier that you should be dealing with in this particular case. We know what it is like trying to make something that you're not equipped or geared up for, and we like to stay away from that. It's simply a costly exercise.
Suppliers turning away business? Yes. In fact, it's getting to the point where world-class suppliers are allocating their capacity, and customers are competing for it. Even major corporations like Motorola have to learn to be world-class customers.
We choose to look at it and say our objective is for our best-in-class and world-class suppliers to see us as their favorite customer.
If you have not yet begun the journey, don't start with your suppliers. Achieve internal success first, like Harley Davidson did. Otherwise, suppliers may not take you seriously.
I think we can pretty well see through, if it's just strictly words, we can see through that. Perhaps just a few trips to their own facility to find out what's going on.
In forming alliances with suppliers, be careful not to have so close a relationship that you automatically ignore someone new who may have something new and better to offer.
When a new supplier came to the door, the first reaction was, give me your card and I'll see you later.
Maybe instead of trimming your supplier base, you should think of optimizing it. And then don't stop benchmarking. Now, what do companies like Harley Davidson wish they had done differently?
We would have done a better job of initially interviewing the suppliers and finding out if they really had a true intent to get involved in our program or whether they were just kind of waltzing us down the road. And we could have weeded out those companies faster.
Optimizing your supplier base, understanding suppliers' capabilities, achieving process improvements to reduce costs, sharing information like long-term schedules and anticipated new product introductions, sole sourcing, but continually benchmarking those suppliers, and being a world-class customer. Those are some of the links in managing the supply chain. The rewards are continuous improvements in quality and the total cost of purchased parts. Rewards we'll all need to be competitive. For the Association for Manufacturing Excellence, I'm Howard Fox.